You should not be doing this.
Just stop! Let her go.
In bully grabs black teacher's throat in class unaware. She's a deadly Marine veteran. The story unfolds with Jordan Carter, a disciplined black teacher and Marine veteran, who endures constant racism at Crestwood High until a privileged bully, Tyler Briggs, assaults her in class, sparking an institutional cover-up, but Jordan refuses silence, rallying allies like Ms. Green and her students, while systemic racism, administrative corruption, and political privilege try to bury the truth. As leaked footage spreads, protests ignite, power structures crumble, Superintendent Lowell and Councilman Briggs fall, and Tyler faces expulsion, leaving Jordan's resilience and voice as the final testament that silence is surrender. Truth endures, and poetic justice always arrives. Even in the dust of broken power, the bell rang with metallic finality, its echo stretching down the white-tiled hallways of Crestwood High. Jordan Carter adjusted the cuffs of her blazer and stepped into room 214, her classroom for the year. The students were already seated, some slouched, some whispering, some staring with that glassy disinterest only teenagers could perfect. She scanned the rows, chin lifted, spine straight, Marine posture never, let them read your nerves. "Good morning," she said, voice even. "I'm Ms. Carter, welcome to U.S. history." A few murmured greetings. A boy in the back smirked. "Guess we got a diversity hire," he muttered. Low, but not low enough. Jordan's eyes cut to him. She didn't flinch. "Your name?" The boy grinned wider. Tyler Briggs." A ripple of chuckles passed through the room. Jordan let the silence stretch, not breaking eye contact. Then, "Mr. Briggs, you'll find that in this classroom, respect is not optional. Is that clear?" His grin faltered, but he leaned back, feigning indifference. Narration drifted above the exchange, like a cold documentary voice. Predators test boundaries early. Power is not seized in one blow, but in whispers, smirks, and unchecked slights. She moved through the syllabus, her voice steady, her hands crisp as she wrote dates on the board. But under the veneer of normalcy, tension simmered. A girl raised her hand. "Ms. Carter, where'd you teach before this?" Jordan paused. A dozen faces leaned in. She answered simply, "Before I taught, I served in the Marines." Murmurs swept the class. Tyler's eyebrows shot up. Then he barked a laugh. "You, a Marine? Yeah, right." Jordan turned, marker still in hand. "Yes, I served 12 years. Afghanistan, Iraq, logistics officer, and none of it was a joke." Silence. Even the whisperers shut their mouths. But Tyler wasn't finished. He tilted his head, eyes narrowed. "Guess the Marines are desperate too." The words hit like a slap, but Jordan didn't blink. She capped the marker with a precise click. "Lesson 1, she said evenly. "History is about truth, and truth doesn't change just because you don't like it." For the rest of class, her voice carried over the shifting, restless students. Every so often, Tyler whispered something under his breath, drawing snickers. But each time, Jordan met his eyes until he broke first. Narration. Racism rarely begins with violence. It begins with laughter, with the safety of knowing no one will stop you, with the arrogance of legacy father on the board, system on your side. Jordan Carter had seen men like him in deserts across the ocean, in ranks where power corrupted loyalty. Different battlefield, same enemy. When the bell finally shrieked, chairs scraped and backpacks swung. Students filed out, voices rising again like static. Tyler Lingard, sauntering toward the door. He paused, smirked, and said just loud enough, "See you tomorrow, Moraine." Jordan met his eyes. "And you'll see me, Mr. Briggs. Every day." He smirked, but for the first time, something flickered in his gaze. Alone in the classroom, Jordan stood at the window, watching the sun glare against the football field outside. Her reflection in the glass looked steady, strong, but her chest carried the familiar weight. New battlefield, same war. The second week of the semester unfolded with the rhythm of sharpened pencils, bells, and hallway gossip. But inside room 214, the undercurrent was sharper, colder. Jordan Carter felt it the moment she stepped through the door. The students had settled into their seating patterns. Tyler Briggs ruled the back row like a throne. His friends clustered around him, echoing his snickers, waiting for his signal. "Open to page 42, Jordan said, her tone clipped but calm. Chairs scraped, books thumped. From the back, Tyler muttered, "Open to page, whatever she says." "Huh." Laughter hissed like gas escaping. Jordan's gaze locked on him. Mr. Briggs read the first paragraph aloud. His eyes narrowed. What if I don't feel like it? You will, she said evenly. He rolled his tongue against his cheek, then drawled the passage, mangling words, exaggerating his accent to mock her voice. His friends cackled. Jordan let him finish, then replied, "Thank you for the performance. Now try it again, this time like a student, not a clown." A flicker of rage crossed his face, but he picked up the book again. Narration cut in like a camera flash. Every war has its scouts, the one who probes defenses, testing for weakness. Tyler Briggs was not reading history. He was writing his own script of dominance. Later, while students worked in pairs, Jordan circled the room. Two boys whispered as she passed, "Bet she got that job just 'cause of skin color." Affirmative action teacher. She didn't stop walking, but her jaw clenched. Got at lunch. She carried her tray to the teacher's lounge. Conversations hushed when she entered. Only Mr. Daniels, the math teacher, nodded in greeting. She sat at the corner table. The principal, Mr. Lowell, strode in with his coffee. Spotting her, he smiled thinly. "Miss Carter, adjusting well." "Adjusting," she answered, "though I'd like to discuss classroom behavior. One of my students, Tyler Briggs, is becoming disruptive, borderline abusive." Lowell's smile faltered, but he quickly recovered. "Teenagers can be spirited. Tyler's a good kid. You just need to build rapport. He mocks me openly, encourages others." Lowell sipped his coffee. "Don't escalate. He's under pressure. Athletics, family expectations. Pick your battles." Jordan's eyes hardened. "I was a Marine. I know battles, and I know when someone's testing limits." A silence fell. Lowell gave a patronizing chuckle. "Let's not turn a classroom into a battlefield, Miss Carter." Narration intruded again. Institutions deflect. Blame slides downhill. The aggressor becomes spirited. The target becomes too rigid. Power protects itself with euphemism. Back in class, the hostility sharpened. During a discussion on Reconstruction, Jordan called on a student. Tyler cut in loudly. "Why are we always learning about slavery? Ain't that ancient history?" Some students shifted uncomfortably. A girl in the front whispered, "My grandma still remembers the marches." Tyler sneered. "Yeah, well, my dad says people use the race card for everything." The words landed like stones. Jordan let the silence stretch before answering. "History isn't a card, Mr. Briggs. It's a ledger. And the debts don't vanish just because they make you uncomfortable." Her voice carried, steady, even as her pulse quickened. When the bell rang, Tyler shoved his desk deliberately loud, muttering, "Marine thinks she's a hero." Jordan watched him leave. Her face betrayed nothing. Narration. She had stared down insurgents in Fallujah, corrupt officers in Kabul, men who smiled to her face and plotted behind her back. Tyler Briggs was no soldier, but the arrogance of impunity that she knew too well. After the room emptied, she lingered. Her hand brushed the scar at her collarbone, hidden under fabric. She whispered to herself, "Different war, same enemy." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Outside, laughter filled the hall. Inside, Jordan Carter stood alone, measuring patience against fury, discipline against insult, silence against survival. Monday morning brought gray skies and the sour scent of overwaxed hallways. Jordan Carter walked into the main office carrying a manila folder. Incident reports she had typed and printed. Each one documented Tyler Briggs's disruptions, mockery, and escalating disrespect. The secretary barely looked up. "Principal Lowell's busy." Jordan set the folder on the desk. "Then he can read these when he's not." Moments later, Lowell emerged from his office, mug in hand, eyebrows lifting. "Ms. Carter, step in." Inside, the blinds were half drawn, light slicing across trophies and framed certificates. Lowell settled behind his desk. Jordan placed the folder in front of him. "I've documented a pattern of behavior from Tyler Briggs. It's not small, it's deliberate, and it's escalating." Lowell leafed through the pages, lips tightening. Then he shut the folder. "I see your concern, but Tyler's father is a major supporter of this school. The board values his contributions. So discipline doesn't apply to everyone." Lowell exhaled slowly. "It's not about that. It's about practicality. Tyler is under scrutiny already. Athletics, college prospects. If we come down to heart, it creates unnecessary conflict." Jordan's eyes didn't blink. "Conflict already exists. You're just ignoring it." Lowell leaned forward, voice softening like oil. "Miss Carter, I know you're new here. I know you come from a different background, but this isn't the Marines. This is a high school. We deal with teenagers. You need to be flexible." Her jaw tightened. Respect isn't negotiable. Not in the Marines. Not in a classroom. Lowell's smile thinned. You'll need to adapt if you want longevity here. Narration cut like a blade. The institution speaks in veiled threats. Compliance disguised as advice. Survival traded for silence. That afternoon, in the teacher's lounge, Jordan approached a colleague, Miss Green, an English teacher with tired eyes and ink stains on her fingers. "Green," Jordan said quietly, "does Lowell always run interference for board members' kids?" Green's laugh was bitter. "You're asking if the sun rises. Tyler's untouchable. We've all had him. He knows it too. And no one pushes back. People try, they don't last." Green stirred her coffee, staring into the swirl. "This school doesn't fire you outright. It buries you in evaluations, paperwork, whispers about your fit. Next thing you know, you resign. Happened to Martinez last year. She raised hell about a bored kid. Didn't survive the semester." Jordan's hands curled into fists at her sides. Later, in class, Tyler tested her again. She assigned an essay on Reconstruction. He leaned back, arms folded. "Ain't writing about that crap." Jordan's tone was calm. "Then you'll take a 0, he smirked. "My dad says zeros don't stick if teachers are biased." Gasps rippled through the room. A few students glanced nervously between them. Jordan stepped closer, voice like steel. "In this classroom, your father isn't here. I am, and you will respect the assignment or accept the consequence, for the first time." Tyler's smirk flickered into something darker: hatred, not just mockery. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "You think you can talk to me like that?" Jordan held his gaze. "Yes, because I'm not afraid of you." The room went silent. Students froze, waiting for an explosion. Tyler sat back slowly, lips curling. "We'll see." Narration hovered like a storm cloud. Bullies thrive on silence. When silence breaks, they sharpen their claws. The first no is never the end. It is the beginning. That evening, Jordan sat at her kitchen table, grading papers. Her laptop pinged on. Email from Lowell.Ms. "Carter, I received a call from Mr. Briggs today. He's concerned about how his son feels targeted in your class. I advise you to be mindful of your tone and approach. We don't want students feeling alienated." Jordan stared at the screen, her pulse pounding. Targeted, alienated. The inversion twisted like a knife. She closed the laptop with deliberate calm. Her training whispered in her mind. When command fails, adapt. When allies vanish, hold the line. She whispered aloud into the silence of her apartment. "You'll break before I do." Rain slicked the sidewalks outside Crestwood High, but inside room 214 the heat was palpable, a slow burn of resentment. Jordan Carter stood at the front, pointer in hand, the projector humming as images of civil rights marches filled the screen. She spoke clearly, voice steady. The struggle for equality wasn't a distant event. It shaped laws, communities, the air we breathe today. Students scribbled notes, some attentive, others drifting. In the back, Tyler Briggs slouched, arms crossed, a smirk pulling at his mouth. "So what?" he muttered, loud enough to cut through the room. Whole slavery thing was forever ago. People just whining now. A couple of his friends chuckled, others shifted uneasily, eyes darting toward Jordan. Her gaze snapped to him. "Repeat that." Tyler leaned forward, smirk widening. "I said people need to stop whining. My dad says it's all excuses. Nobody alive today owns slaves." Silence dropped heavy. A girl near the window whispered, "That's not fair," but fell quiet under Tyler's glare. Jordan's tone was iron. "History doesn't vanish because it makes you uncomfortable. Reconstruction wasn't ancient. Jim Crow wasn't ancient. Your grandparents lived in those laws. Some wounds don't heal in a generation." Tyler's eyes narrowed. "You act like you know everything." "I know facts," Jordan replied. "And facts don't bend for your comfort." Narration cut like thunder. Injustice never begins as fists. It begins as words unchecked, seeds watered by laughter. Tyler Briggs had learned that arrogance is inherited, and silence is his shield. After class, students trickled out. One lingered: Maria, a quiet sophomore. She whispered, eyes down, "Miss Carter, I thought it was brave, what you said. My dad marched in Ferguson. He'd be glad you said it." Jordan's features softened slightly. "Thank you, Maria. Remember, silence helps no one. Truth matters." The girl nodded quickly and slipped out. But at the door, Tyler stopped. He looked back, sneer sharp. "Careful, Marine. Keep talking like that. You'll regret it." Jordan's voice dropped low. calm as a blade unsheathed. Threats don't scare me. His smirk faltered, but he slammed the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Later that week, the tension boiled higher. Tyler strutted into class late, dropping into his chair with deliberate noise. Jordan marked him tardy without a word. Unfair, he muttered. You're always picking on me. You arrived late. That's a fact, she said. He raised his voice. You just hate me 'cause I'm white. Gasps broke across the room. A couple of students laughed nervously, but most sat frozen. Jordan's tone was sharp, unflinching. Do not twist accountability into racism. You're late. Own it. Tyler's face reddened, jaw tight. You think you're tough 'cause you were in the military. My dad says you people don't belong in schools like this. The words landed heavy, brutal in their nakedness. Jordan's voice did not rise. Your father is not my authority. This classroom is, and you will either respect it or fail it. The silence was suffocating. Students stared at desks, some biting lips, some wide-eyed narration. Intruded again. Every war has its moment, the spark that makes retreat impossible. Words, once spoken, cannot be recalled. Tyler had crossed into open territory. The battlefield was set. That night, Jordan sat at her kitchen table, pen poised above lesson plans but unmoving. The echo of Tyler's words gnawed at her. She had endured worse in combat zones, worse in barracks where loyalty fractured under pressure. Yet this thing here, cut different, she whispered into the empty room. He doesn't even know the war he's walking into. Her eyes closed briefly. Memories flickered sandstorms, gunfire, faces of comrades who never made it home. Discipline, restraint, survival. She opened her eyes, steady once more. The storm was coming, and she would know. The Friday air in Crestwood High carried a crackle, restless before the weekend. In room 214, the hum was heavier, oppressive. Jordan Carter could feel it, the shift in atmosphere when defiance turns to something darker. She wrote, Civil Rights, Act of 1964 on the board in crisp letters. Today we examine how law and courage intersected, she said, turning to face the class. Whispers buzzed. Tyler Briggs lounged at his desk, tapping a pen against the tabletop like a drummer marking time. His friends smirked, waiting. Tyler, Jordan said evenly. Put the pen down. He clicked it louder, then muttered, Make me. The room froze. Jordan's voice cut sharp. Enough. Hand it over. Tyler stood suddenly, chair scraping back, the sound knifing through the silence. He strode forward, eyes locked on her. You think you can boss me around? His voice was louder now, rising. You think you're tough, huh? Just 'cause you played soldier. Jordan didn't move. Return to your seat. Instead, he closed the gap, face twisted with rage. Then, in a flash, his hand shot out and clamped around her throat. Gasps exploded from the students. A couple screamed. Desks rattled as bodies jerked back in shock. Jordan's body tensed, muscles firing with instinct. Memories snapped into place. Dusty alleys, ambush drills, the hot press of hands around her neck in training. Her Marine discipline took over: assess, react, control. But she didn't lash out. Not fully, not yet. She gripped his wrist, fingers like iron, pried just enough to free her windpipe. Her voice came low, steady, deadly, calm. Let go. Now, Tyler's eyes widened. He hadn't expected resistance, not this controlled power. He squeezed harder, teeth bared. What are you gonna do? Hit me. You're finished if you touch me. Her eyes locked on his. No fear, only calculation. With precise movement, she shifted her stance, twisted his wrist outward just enough to force a gasp from him, then stepped back, breaking free without striking. The hold snapped. He stumbled, shocked. She leaned close, voice barely above a whisper. But every student heard. You touched the wrong woman. Silence swallowed the room. Even the air seemed to pause. Tyler's chest heaved. He looked around expecting laughter, support, but faces stared back, wide-eyed, stunned. Even his friends sat frozen. No smirks now. Narration descended cold. When the mask of impunity cracks, arrogance falters. Tyler Briggs had crossed a line his privilege couldn't shield. But institutions, like soldiers, don't retreat easily. The real battle was only beginning. The bell shrieked, but no one moved. Students sat stiff, unsure whether to flee or stay. Jordan smoothed her blazer, throat sore but voice firm. Class dismissed. Chairs scraped. Whispers surged like wildfire. Phones were out, some already recording, some trembling in hands. Tyler lingered, face twisted. He spat the words, You're done. Then he stormed out. shoulders stiff, pride dented but not broken. Later, Jordan stood alone in the empty room. Her reflection stared back from the darkened window come on the surface, stormed beneath. Her fingers brushed the red marks blooming on her throat. She whispered, first blood drawn. By Monday morning, room 214 was no longer just a classroom. It was a crime scene of whispers. Students huddled in tight circles, voices low but urgent. Phones glowed under desks, replaying shaky clips of Tyler's hand on Jordan Carter's throat. Jordan walked in, posture rigid, every step deliberate. Conversations cut short. Dozens of eyes darted between her bruised neck and their screens. Textbooks out, she said. Her voice was steady, but her throat burned with every word. In the back row, Tyler's seat was empty. At third period, the intercom clicked. Ms. Carter, please report to the principal's office. The walk down the hall was long, lined with staring faces. When she entered Lowell's office, Tyler and his father were already there. Mr. Briggs, Sr. filled the room with his bulk and expensive suit. Ty nodded like a badge of authority. His eyes were cold, calculating. Tyler sat beside him, arms crossed, chin high, trying to mask the flicker of unease. Lowell gestured. Please, Miss Carter. Jordan remained standing. What's the charge? Mr. Briggs's voice rumbled. The charge, Miss Carter, is that you put your hands on my son, on school property, in front of witnesses. Jordan's eyes narrowed. Correction. Your son put his hands on me. He grabbed my throat. Tyler smirked faintly. That's not how people saw it. Lowell cleared his throat, shifting in his chair. There are conflicting accounts. Some students said you used force. Jordan's tone was ice. I used restraint. If I hadn't, your student would not be sitting here smirking. Silence. The words landed heavy. Narration sliced through. Truth in unequal systems does not walk upright. It crawls under weight, suffocates under money and influence. A Marine's word versus a board member's son. History repeats in miniature. Mr. Briggs leaned forward. Here's what will happen. We keep this quiet. No police, no scandal. My boy stays on the team, stays on track. You drop this nonsense, and we move on. He let the threat hang. You'll find your career here very short. Jordan's eyes met his without blinking. You think threats work on me? I've faced warlords with more bite than you. Lowell interjected quickly, voice oily. Let's not escalate. Perhaps a compromise, a written warning, mediation, and we close the matter. Jordan stood tall, hands clasped behind her back. No compromise. Assault happened. If you bury it, that's on you. But I will not, Tyler muttered. Marine freak. She turned her gaze on him. Someday, Tyler, you'll learn actions have consequences. Today is that day. His smirk faltered. That afternoon, whispers became wildfire. Students exchanged clips in bathrooms, on buses, in hushed corners. The grainy footage clearly showed Tyler's hand on her throat, but rumors twisted. She provoked him. She overreacted. She attacked him first. Jordan sat in her classroom after hours. Papers spread but untouched. The door creaked open. Ms. Green slipped in. You okay? She asked quietly. Jordan's voice was flat. I'm standing. That's enough. Green set down her bag. They're going to bury this. Briggs has the board in his pocket. Lowell too. I know. But some kids believe you. They saw the truth. Jordan looked at her. Truth isn't enough. Evidence is, and pressure. This won't be won inside their walls. Green hesitated. You're going to fight them, aren't you? Jordan's jaws set. I don't know any other way. That night, Jordan sat in her apartment, throat still sore, laptop open. She began typing every detail, every conversation, every witness, a record, a weapon. Narration whispered like a drumbeat. In war, the first strike is not the victory. It is the invitation to resistance. Jordan Carter knew this well. She had survived deserts and sieges. Now, she would survive Crestwood High. The next week at Crestwood, silence was louder than noise. Students watched Jordan Carter, as though expecting her to vanish. Administrators avoided her eyes in the hallway. Tyler Briggs strutted through the building with forced bravado, his friends clinging close, their laughter brittle. But beneath the surface, whispers carried. Clips of the assault leaked further, shared in private group chats, passed on to siblings, cousins, neighbors. Truth was moving, even as the system tried to smother it. In room 214, Jordan taught with her usual discipline, but between lessons, eyes lingered on her bruises. At the end of class, Maria approached again, voice hushed, double quotes, Ms. Carter. People are saying Mr. Lowell's trying to delete the videos. Jordan studied the girl. Did you see it happen? My friend tried to post it on the school page. It disappeared. Jordan gave a curt nod. Thank you, Maria. Keep your head down. And remember, silence protects them, not you. Maria bit her lip, then whispered, we believe you, before slipping out. That evening, Jordan met Ms. Green at a corner diner, the kind that smelled of burnt coffee and grease. Green leaned across the table. Lowell's panicking. Briggs Sr. is breathing down his neck. They want this gone before the next board meeting. Jordan stirred her black coffee slowly. Then it's time to move beyond their walls. Green hesitated. You mean? Jordan's eyes lifted. Steel beneath calm. Yes, I've got a contact from my service days. Works for a paper now. If the institution buries the truth, we exhume it, Green whispered, almost afraid. That'll make enemies. Jordan's tone was flat. I've had worse. Narration cut in like a drumbeat. Resistance begins in shadows, not with armies, but with whispers, allies, and the refusal to kneel. The next day, Jordan sat across from a young reporter at a small cafe downtown. His recorder clicked on. Off the record, he asked. Jordan shook her head. On the record, every word. She laid out the story Tyler's pattern of abuse, the assault, the administration's attempts to silence it. She provided the typed log, the names of students, the timeline. The reporter's eyes widened. This could blow up. Then light the fuse, Jordan said. Back at Crestwood, Tyler's behavior shifted. The swagger was still there, but cracks showed. He caught Jordan's eye during class, sneered, then muttered just loud enough, you're done when this is over. Jordan leaned forward, her voice calm but sharp. You're not fighting me, Tyler. You're fighting truth, and truth doesn't lose. His smirk faltered under the steady weight of her gaze. That afternoon, Jordan found a note slipped under her classroom door. Stop or you'll regret it. No signature, but the message was clear. She stared at it for a long time, then folded it neatly and placed it in her file. Evidence. Another piece of the puzzle. Narration returned, cold and certain. Threats are weapons of the desperate. The system was shifting. Cracks were forming. Resistance had begun to sting. That night, she sat at her desk, laptop open, news alerts already beginning to hum. Her throat still carried faint bruises, but her voice, when she spoke to herself, was strong. They wanted silence. They'll get fire instead. Her Marine discipline framed the war in her mind. Objectives, allies, timing. This battlefield wasn't sand and steel, it was words, recordings, truth forced into daylight. And Jordan Carter was ready. The story detonated on a Wednesday morning. Headlines blazed across local news sites. Student attacks Black teacher school administration under fire for cover-up. Clips of Tyler's assault played on repeat. The grainy cell phone footage spread across feeds. Hashtags mounting. Outrage mounting faster. Parents shared it. Activists reposted it. Strangers across the city demanded answers. At Crestwood High, the air was electric. Students swarmed hallways, phones glowing. Snippets of conversation cut sharp through the buzz. They tried to hide. This Ms. Carter didn't even hit him back. Why is he still walking around? When Jordan entered her classroom, silence fell. Students stood, not all, but enough to shift the balance of power. Respect, unspoken, filled the space. She acknowledged them with a small nod, then began teaching as though nothing had changed. But everything had. The boardroom wasn't so composed. Superintendent Lowell sat at the head of the long table, his tie loose, his forehead wet with sweat. Tyler's father, Councilman Briggs, slammed his fist against the polished wood. This is a witch hunt. My son's being crucified on the internet. Lowell tried to steady his voice. The footage is unfortunate. We're working on damage control. Damage control, Briggs roared. He's a minor. You let this go viral. You should have buried it weeks ago. One board member muttered. We tried. People kept leaking it. Briggs turned his glare on him. Then find who's leaking and end it. A tense silence followed. The walls of privilege were cracking. Outside the building, reporters had gathered like vultures. Cameras rolled, microphones thrust forward. Superintendent Lowell, did you authorize the cover-up? Councilman Briggs, did you pressure the school to protect your son? Ms. Carter, do you feel safe teaching at Crestwood? Jordan exited last, flanked by Green. Flashes blinded her, but she didn't flinch. Her voice cut clear through the noise. I came here to teach. I was assaulted. I was silenced. But silence ends today. The crowd roared. Her words traveled further than the cameras could catch. That night, Briggs Jr. found himself cornered in his own home. His father's voice thundered down the hall. Do you have any idea what you've done? Tyler's voice cracked. It's not my fault. She shut up. The councilman snapped. I can't cover for you anymore. They want your head. And if I fall, you fall harder. For the first time, Tyler's confidence faltered. Fear edged his tone. What are you saying? I'm saying you'd better pray your mother's friends still believe you're the victim. Tyler sat in silence, the weight of consequence pressing down. Meanwhile, Jordan sat alone in her small apartment, watching the news cycles spin. Interviews, hashtags, debates. Her name was everywhere. She felt no pride, only resolve. Her phone buzzed with a message from her old Marine comrade. Keep pushing. The higher they rise, the harder they fall. She typed back only one word: copy. The next day, the collapse accelerated. A group of students staged a walkout, marching through Crestwood's halls chanting, "Justice for Ms. Carter." They carried posters, some with Jordan's face, others with the word truth in bold letters. Administration tried to intervene, but phones were recording. Every attempt to silence the students became another viral clip. Inside the principal's office, Green confronted Lowell. You've lost control. The kids don't trust you. The parents don't trust you. The media's eating you alive. Lowell's voice trembled. If I go down, you're coming with me. Green stepped closer, voice like a blade. I never laid hands on a teacher. You did. You buried it. You protected him. Don't drag me into your grave. Lowell stared, realizing he stood alone. Narration struck like a verdict. Collapse of power is not sudden. It is erosion, brick by brick, until the fortress crumbles under its own weight. That evening, Councilman Briggs faced his own reckoning. Protesters gathered outside his office, chanting his name with venom. Reporters hounded him, demanding accountability. His political allies distanced themselves one by one. Inside, his phone buzzed endlessly, calls unanswered, promises withdrawn, support evaporated. Tyler watched from the corner, his father's empire crumbling. For once, there was no smirk, no sneer, only silence. At Crestwood, Jordan packed up her lesson plans for the day. As she slid papers into her bag, Maria lingered at the doorway. Ms. Carter. Yes, Maria. The girl's voice shook with emotion. Thank you for not letting them win. Jordan paused, then answered softly. This isn't about winning, it's about truth. Hold on to that. Maria nodded, tears brimming. Before disappearing into the hall, Jordan stood alone in the empty room, her bruises fading, her resolve sharpened. The system was collapsing, and she would not look away. The storm broke on a Friday morning. News anchors led with the headline, Councilman Briggs resigns amid school assault scandal. Clips of Tyler's attack rolled alongside footage of protests outside the district office. Parents demanded resignations. Students marched in the streets with signs. Justice for Jordan. Protect our teachers. The fortress of privilege had crumbled at Crestwood High. Silence hung heavy. Tyler Briggs arrived late, hood pulled low, whispers trailing him down the hall. His friends kept their distance, phones angled toward him, capturing the once untouchable boy now drowning in shame. In room 214, Jordan stood at the board, chalk in hand. When Tyler slouched into his desk, she turned slowly. Their eyes met. He muttered, almost pleading, "You ruined everything." Jordan's voice was calm. Raise, "No, Tyler, you ruined yourself. I just refused to stay silent." He had no reply, only the sound of students shifting uncomfortably, watching his downfall unfold in real time. Meanwhile, Superintendent Lowell faced the board. His voice shook as he read his resignation. "I accept full responsibility for mishandling the incident." Cameras flashed, capturing his disgrace. Green sat in the back, her expression unreadable, but her eyes flicked to Jordan with a silent acknowledgement. Narration thundered. Poetic justice is not vengeance. It is the balance of scales, the inevitable price for arrogance and abuse. That evening, Jordan attended the city council hearing. The chamber was packed. Parents, activists, press. Briggs Sr. sat hunched, his nameplate stripped of power. Tyler was nowhere to be seen. A community leader took the floor. "We are here not just for Ms. Carter, but for every teacher silenced, every student ignored, every injustice buried. No more." The crowd erupted in applause. Jordan felt the vibration in her bones. Outside, reporters swarmed, a microphone thrust toward her. "Miss Carter, do you feel vindicated?" Her answer was steady. "I feel heard, and that's all we ever wanted." The clip played across every channel that night, her words etched into the narrative. At home, Jordan sat in her dimly lit apartment, laptop open. Messages poured in: former students, colleagues, strangers. Thank you for standing up. You gave us courage. You showed us we don't have to stay quiet. She scrolled slowly, the Marine discipline in her bones, refusing sentimentality. But a quiet smile formed, not pride, resolution. That days later, Tyler Briggs was expelled. His father, disgraced, moved out of state under a cloud of scandal. Superintendent Lowell faded into obscurity, his name synonymous with cowardice. And Jordan Carter remained. She taught, she guided, she carried scars, visible and unseen. But she endured. In class, she closed a lesson with words that hung in the air like scripture. Strength is not measured by silence. Strength is speaking when your voice shakes, standing when your knees tremble. Remember that. Her students sat in stillness, absorbing every syllable. Narration closed the circle. Poetic justice is not a single moment. It is a ripple, one act of courage, breaking chains for many. In the ashes of corruption, truth rises, and those who dared to silence it are left with nothing but their own echoes. That night, Jordan looked out her window at the city skyline. The bruises on her throat had faded. The noise of the scandal dimmed. But the lesson remained. She whispered to herself, not as a soldier, not as a victim, but as a survivor. They'll never own my silence again. Months later, Crestwood High felt different. The walls were the same beige, the bells rang at the same times, but the silence had shifted. It was no longer fear, it was respect. Students moved differently around Jordan Carter. They carried notebooks and whispers, but also a new sense of weight, as though they knew her presence marked a boundary no one could cross again. One spring afternoon, after dismissal, Jordan lingered in room 214. Dust motes floated in the late light. The desks were empty, the air still. She ran a hand across the chalkboard, faint white lines smearing beneath her palm. The bruises had long faded, but their memory lived in the grain of the room. Maria entered quietly, holding a folded piece of paper. Miss Carter, I wanted to give you this. Jordan unfolded it, a drawing herself, standing tall at the front of the class, shadowed by the faint silhouette of a Marine in uniform behind her. At the bottom, Maria had written, "Truth is stronger than silence." Jordan's throat tightened. Thank you, Maria. The girl smiled shyly. You taught us that. Then she slipped out, leaving Jordan with the weight of the gift. Elsewhere, the wreckage remained. Tyler Briggs existed now only in whispers, expelled, vanished from Crestwood's halls, remembered not as a king but as a warning. His father's career lay in ruins, his name a punchline in political circles. Superintendent Lowell faded from public view, his legacy stained, narration pressed cold and clear. The dust of collapsed power never settles on the guilty alone. It stains every hand that touched it, every silence that fed it. That evening, Jordan walked the streets of her neighborhood, the same cracked sidewalks, the same corner store, the same children playing under dim streetlights. Yet strangers stopped her now. Ms. Carter, thank you. You gave us courage. You made them listen. She nodded politely, accepting each word with Marine restraint. Gratitude didn't erase scars, but it filled the air with something other than fear. Back home, Jordan opened a box she hadn't touched in years. Inside lay her Marine medals, ribbons dulled with time, a folded uniform jacket. She traced the fabric with steady hands. Her voice broke the silence. Different battlefield, same fight. She closed the box, not to bury it, but to honor it. Her war had never ended. It had only changed terrain. On Sunday, she stood at a community forum. Parents, activists, and teachers filled the room. Green introduced her simply. Jordan Carter, our teacher, our veteran, our truth teller. Jordan stepped forward, no notes in hand, her voice carried with calm authority. They tried to make my voice small. They failed. They'll try again with others, in other ways. But silence is not strength. Silence is surrender, and we will not surrender. Applause erupted, not as noise but as thunder, as affirmation. Later, as dusk fell, Jordan sat by her window. The city moved below her sirens, laughter, the hum of life. She breathed deeply, scars stitched into strength. Memory hardened into resolve. Narration concluded. Reflection in the dust is not grief alone. It is remembrance. It is the promise that injustice will not go unanswered. That truth, though bruised, endures. That one voice can break silence for many. Jordan whispered one final time, her words drifting into the night. They'll never bury me again. And with that, the chapter closed.